Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is the 350 Seattle General Meeting, November 2020. What a time. And what a place to be in. I just want to start off with kind of like a welcome and our land acknowledgement. My name is Shimona. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Art and Movement Building Director here at 350 Seattle on our staff collective. I am calling in from the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people and of the Duwamish tribe. We like to begin our meetings and our gatherings with an acknowledgement of whose land we're on. We do this to honor the original people who were here before us and who are still here fighting for their rights. We do this for our animal sisters and brothers and for the land. Now more than ever, in this whirlwind of like multiple crises, I can't never say that word, sorry, crises, we should be looking to Indigenous wisdom to like reimagine and create a livable future for us and for those who are coming after us. We can't forget our future generations. This is all the work we do now is for us and for them. I also specifically named the Duwamish tribe because to this day they are still fighting to be federally recognized. And if you would like to learn more about the Duwamish tribe and how you can support them, I'm going to paste a link into the chat where you can learn about Real Rent Duwamish. And through this link, you can find like action steps and ways to like pay rent to the Duwamish tribe. For those of you who are new, feel free to put your name and your pronouns and where and whose land you're calling in from. And also just want to acknowledge and lift up all the people who are fighting in that protests tonight. Our frontline workers, our healthcare workers, our poll workers, the unhoused, and the folks who are incarcerated. We must not forget them in our acknowledgements as well. So tonight we're here on this call so we can like learn and figure out what we're gonna do with our next steps, but also take like a moment to like breathe and like process a little bit. So I welcome you all here and thank you for hopping on. I just want to go through a few Zoom logistics as well. We are going to be recording this call, so if you do not want your name shown, please feel free to turn off your camera and rename yourself. You can rename yourself if you look into the participants and hover over your name and click rename, and then you can type in something else, something creative if you'd like. Also, I will ask all of you to please stay on mute while our speakers are speaking. And we will also be sending out resources and like follow-up stuff, hopefully by Friday evening, but sometimes it's a little later than that because you know what? It's pandemic, it's election time, things are wild and we have to be kind of like moving and grooving in ways that we just don't know how or can't figure out yet. So patience is key. Definitely pop some questions in the chat. Val and I will be looking and helping. And if you want to private message me, feel free. My name's Shimona. If you have questions about tech at all. So yeah. Oops, I always forget to hit my slides when I'm doing all that. I kind of just go because I get nervous. So yeah, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more about like who 350 Seattle is for those of you who are new. We are 350 Seattle. 350 Seattle works toward climate justice by organizing people to make deep system change, which is resisting fossil fuels, building momentum for healthy alternatives, and fostering resilient, just, and welcoming communities. That is our mission here at 350. And I also just want to say we specifically name that because we are not a POC-led organization, we are not a climate justice organization. Our org works to lift up and highlight and stand in solidarity with climate justice organizations, such as like Got Green, Puget Sound Sage, and other organizations like that. Our work, the work that we mostly focus on here, is kind of split up into 4 buckets, which is resistance, which is fighting new fossil fuel infrastructure. That's our like the Tacoma LNG resistance, fighting the Trans Mountain Pipeline and the like. There's our accountability work, that's holding the fossil fuel industry and its enablers accountable. That's our work in like divest and defund, stop the money pipeline. Our third bucket of work is solutions, which is like building policies rooted in climate justice and fostering resilient communities. So that's like our Seattle for a Green New Deal work. That's our like policy and civic action team work and aviation and port and so on. The list is growing every day. And then of course our fourth bucket is movement support, and that's all like the backbone of our organization. That's the artwork you see, that's our equity and inclusion work, our solidarity nodes, our communications, our operations. It's all the stuff that kind of like the backbone of all of our work, that keeps it going and moving. And if this is your first time in this 350 general meeting, I would definitely love to connect with anybody who would love to learn more. And so there are a few ways you can do that. You can visit our website and sign up to get online, which I think most of you might have already done that if you're here, but if not, that's another way you can do that. You can sign up for a one-on-one with me. I have a wonderful, awesome link that you can use to sign up, and just like find a time to talk to me one-on-one and figure out different ways you can get involved with 350 Seattle. And also we have our volunteer opportunities list.
Hey, can you do that elsewhere, Karen?
Oh, please, can you mute yourself, whoever is.
I just muted her.
Oh, thank you, Val. And also we have our volunteer opportunities list where you can find a variety of different volunteer tasks, roles, teams to join. And this will be in our follow-up email, and I can post this in the chat as well. Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. This is, okay, hold on, sorry guys. Technical difficulties. I'm trying to do this with 2 screens. There we go. And so that's what we have for now. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So now we're gonna jump into the kind of like the meat of this meeting, which is kind of talking about the election that's happening right now, and just like the plans that we're gonna have to put into place, and also just like how we're even feeling about what's happening. I'll be honest, I don't know what's happening right now because I had to take a break. I haven't looked at my phone in a while because I could feel my heart racing and I'm sweating buckets over here, and I just like haven't had the chance to see if we've made the turn or not. So we're gonna have a chance to talk about that with each other today. And Val and Jess and Andrew, when they hop on, will be here to kind of like walk through some opportunities and what's happening locally and also nationally. So yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a minute. Kind of want to launch this poll that's going to kind of ask you guys a question, like a little temp check of like how we're feeling. And Val, if you could be so kind.
Hit the launch button.
Hit the launch button. You'll see something pop up on your screen, and there's going to be a question for you to answer based on today's election day antics. Like, how are you feeling about it? And there's a few options there. Like, you can pick one, like, everything's a shit show. I want to curl up in a ball and cry. I am so confused. You know what? I'm hopeful, or like, we got this. So if you pick one.
We don't have an other or all of the above. Feel free to put in the chat if you want to offer some other responses.
Yes. Sorry, someone asked me if I could provide some better lighting for myself. Is it better? Yes, there's a lot of all of the above. Cool. Darn, I should have put that in the poll, you guys. I'm sorry. So like maybe
Multitude of feelings. Should we end the poll?
yeah, like
Have 3 more seconds.
3 more seconds. Get your feelings in there, or pop them in the chat.
Look at this. I'm hopeful. Do y'all see the responses, or am I the only? Oh, share results. There you go. Y'all are hopeful.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's
Followed
so
by
nice.
everything's a shit show.
We're like opposite ends of the spectrum. I should have put one on there of just like, I'm sweating buckets and I am severely dehydrated now. Oh man. Well, cool. That's really good. I like to add a little bit of humor to things, because if we can't laugh, then we're just like, what can we do? And I just want to also just move into like, give everyone the chance to like talk to each other. So if you are comfortable, we're going to do some breakouts, some pair shares, and if about kind of just talking about the feelings that we kind of express right now, and just like, what are you thinking that you like, what are you doing for self-care, or what are the plans that you're making? Are there things that you are doing now or going to do tomorrow? But yeah, just like have the chance to process with one another, and kind of get the ball rolling of just like, all right, what are our next steps, and how do we keep moving? So I am going to open up the breakout rooms. And if you do not feel comfortable being in a pair share, feel free to stay back into the main room. We're gonna have about, I'd say about 8 to 10 minutes of like a chance to like really talk with one another. There may be rooms of 3. So we'll just see how that goes. So I'm gonna open all the breakout rooms, and you should see something pop up on your screen, and you can go ahead and launch. As people filter back in, please make sure to put yourself back on mute. Turn off your camera if you don't want to be recorded. Usually when you come back from breakout land, your mute button's off and your camera's on and you're all like, oh, disoriented. So take a minute to remute yourself, turn your camera off if you would not like to show your face on the recording. And I think everyone is back. Welcome back, everybody. How was it? Why don't you like some thumbs up, throw in the chat if you're like, that was horrible, I hate talking to people, or like, that was just what I needed. Oh man. So now I am gonna hand the rest of this portion of the meeting off to Val, our wonderful interim executive director and badass organizer, and just like is gonna walk us through just like what's happening, what are we going to be doing at 350 Seattle, and what are other people doing, and how are we going to respond to that? So take it away, Val.
Yeah, thank you, Shimona. And thanks for carrying the meeting to this point. If you could throw on the first slide, that would be great. As Shimona said, I'm Valerie Costa, the interim executive director here at 350 Seattle. It's an incredible honor to hold this role and be part of this organization and be part of this community. I wanted to start tonight sharing that when I went to bed last night, I was filled with dread. I was just like, I can't keep doing this. It's just like one challenge after another, after another. And then there's like life's challenges. It's hard, so hard. And I woke up and felt a little more, felt better. Sleep helps, and the news was a little better than last night, trying to sleep after listening to Trump give his talk. But I checked in with myself, and I was still like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a rough few days, weeks, months, maybe," as we've been preparing for potentially contested and very challenging transition of power in this country. And when I checked in with myself, I had to do what I call like an attitude adjustment. So, this is something I've had to do in being an activist and in climate work, especially in this role. Like when I'm feeling down and I'm like, I don't know if I got it in me, I just have to pause and go, no, you don't have to carry all the weight right now. No. And as I was prepping for this meeting, I was thinking about another Valerie Costa. I don't know if does anybody know her? She's a Sikh American activist. And she gave this incredible TED Talk that I'm going to put the link in the chat. But at the very end of her TED Talk, where she's talking about what it's like to raise her son, a brown-skinned Sikh boy, in this country and all the challenges, she shared, what if we are in a moment of great transformation? We are in a moment of great transformation. And what if the darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? And what if the story of America is one long labor? And then she says, breathe. And I invite you to breathe because it feels good. Breathe. And then push. Push. Just like you're giving birth. Now, I haven't given birth, but it's hard. It is hard. This moment we're in, the work we're doing together is challenging, but transformation is challenging. The kind of change we need in this country, in this society, it's gonna be rocky, and it's rocky right now and will continue to be rocky. But it gives me like great inspiration to be here with you all and be part of this community, and having seen over the last 5 years of being connected with this community that what we can accomplish and what we can accomplish together. So that's my little pep talk for the night. I want to share what I know about what's happening around the election. I'll go into some of the coalitions that are organizing nationally and locally, and then going to hand it off to Andrew, assuming he's here. So I'll check in at that point. Great, he's here. So what we know about this moment, a lot of you probably been watching the news all day, but this is what we know. And Choose Democracy is an incredible resource we've been following and learning from, choosedemocracy.us. We know that votes continue to be counted in every state, that the president has no control over how votes are counted, that ballots can arrive after Election Day in many states, that no state certifies a winner on election night, and that the president has no authority to declare himself the winner. We're not in a coup. Some people are using that word. This is not the moment we're in, but we're vigilant right now. Next slide. 350 Seattle, 350 Seattle Action, which is our C4 sister organization, are part of a couple of big national coalitions that are bringing together labor and social justice orgs, people of color-led organizations, faith-led organizations from around the country who are organizing both pre-election to turn out the vote and get out the vote, and organizing around voter suppression and trying to stop that. And now are shifting their work to ensuring that every vote is counted. So we're part of the Protect the Results Coalition nationally, as well as the Democracy Defense Coalition. So you may see these names in the ecosystem and emails that we send out or other organizations send out. And we're part of those coalitions in both of those spaces, and that means we go to a lot of conference calls. So there are daily briefing calls that are happening now. Protect the Results is calling for sustained mobilizations when they pull the trigger on that. Nationally, they have not done that. Locally, mobilizations have started, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. The other big coalition, Democracy Defense, has a big day of action this Saturday, November 7th, which is branded as the Voters Decided. And we will also be doing an event here in this area. Next slide. Locally, we have a Protect the Results coalition. It is rapidly forming. There, as you can imagine, there's many organizations, many people wanting to take action on this moment. The coalition has decided and did decide before the election that it would mobilize no matter what. And the reason for that is that local organizers and especially the Black-led community groups have said, we have been in the streets for 150 days since George Floyd's murder, and we will continue to be in the streets. And so we invite you, we ask you, you join us in the streets on November 4th. So the coalition decided to mobilize tonight. Some of you may have been out in the streets tonight. It was the first night of sustained mobilizations around the election, and those mobilizations are uniting with the Everyday March and Engage marches that have been happening for months now. The local coalition has passed these demands. So they're calling for, at the highest level, that every vote be counted and that we protect every person. And there's been a lot of concern, rightfully, around violence and violence against protesters and protectors by the police, by right-wingers and fascists and white supremacists. And folks are joining together to make sure that we're lifting up and protecting each other as we go into the streets, and also elevating the demands of the movement for Black lives here, which are defund the police, abolish ICE, invest in Black communities, free all protesters, and no new youth jail. So it was really important that we didn't lose sight of the local demands as we're mobilizing around the national work. So what's going on here are nightly marches, at least through the 7th. So tonight was a march. Tomorrow and Friday, the marches are going to unite with the Everyday March that has been happening every night. I do not know the rendezvous point. If anybody does, I wasn't able to find it. If anybody knows where those marches are starting, please put it in the chat. But I did put the Instagram link here for the march. And then Saturday's event is starting at noon. The rally location is yet to be announced, but it'll be somewhere in central Seattle, and the link is there. So I just realized I was talking this whole time and I did not put any of the links in the chat. So I'm gonna do that right now, and you can catch up with all my linkages. I'm gonna pass it on to Andrew.
Sweet, thank you, Val. Can y'all hear me all right now? Great.
Yes.
Awesome. My name's Andrew. I use he, him pronouns. Just peeled off from the march tonight, which was great. I've been working with folks thinking about how to respond to a coup scenario, which we're currently not in, but could, we're going to see how this goes, and we're keeping our eyes on it. And just wanted to share some info on some of the strategic thinking and how 350 Seattle's been engaging. If Val, if you're down to go to the next slide, or whoever's doing slides. I think the main real concept we're using that's really been learning a lot from other countries that have successfully resisted coups, which in the last 30 years, people have been very successful at stopping coups from being successful, is this concept of the pillars of support, is that a regime's power relies on basically people complying with it and carrying out orders. Like, there's a lot of things Trump would like to do that he can't do himself. Other people have to follow his lead and do it for him. And there's really great analysis of, there's lots of pillars in society of how does the media cover things, what is big business, especially as the elites in our society, that because we are very much like a plutocracy, they have tremendous power. And if they decide they don't want to go along with something, they have great ability to stop it. What do labor unions, youth, church institutions, the bureaucracies of the government are all pillars that can collapse and withdraw their support for a regime. And one of the most important ones, and what's been really good so far, is the Republican Party. As if they don't go along with Trump's wishes, he's pretty much toast. And so far, we've seen good news on that front. So that's promising, but we're going to remain vigilant and be ready to mobilize to tackle these pillars and ensure that any attempt at a power grab is thwarted. So some of the strategic thinking we've been doing here is really thinking about, in a national context, what access do we have in Seattle to these pillars? And we really identified, we think the business community, the oligarchs are really one of the most important pillars, and we have great access to some really key ones, such as Amazon is a big one, but the tech sector in general, and have an ability to influence them. So we carried out some actions demanding that Amazon give all their employees a paid day off, and protested and shut down their warehouses throughout the region this last weekend, pushing that demand with Amazon employees for climate justice. Many of you participated. It was great. And we're ready to escalate that. Unfortunately, we didn't win the demand, but we're ready to escalate if it becomes necessary to press them that they must publicly state that every vote must be counted. The other thing we're seeing is if it comes down to a swing state, a particular state, most likely Pennsylvania right now, where the votes are not being counted or a vote count stops and the state legislature has power, pressure on the key businesses of that state is a good strategy. In Pennsylvania, the one that's been identified nationally is Comcast, and people are thinking about how to put pressure there. That's kind of more new news. But we're sort of tracking all that and brainstorming, what are the ways that we can win or act strategically, in addition to the really key factor of having massive participation throughout society through these coalitions. So we feel we're in a good place right now, but we're going to keep our eyes on the situation. And we've thought a lot about this strategy and ways we can be most impactful here in Seattle, and are ready to take action if need be. The other thing I want to plug is we're setting up a direct action council that can function so different affinity groups and organizations can work together to carry out actions when we have alignment on what we think a strategic target might be. Say if we think targeting Amazon is strategic, everyone who agrees can get together and work together. If you're part of an affinity group or organization that's not 350 Seattle and you're interested in plugging into this, let me know and I can gladly get you connected. But that's I think for tonight, the good short view of where we're at organizationally and what we've been doing. I know a lot of y'all here have been in it, working on it. So unless there's any questions, I'll pass it back to Val.
I think we're gonna wrap up the presentation part and then have some time for Q&A, I think, before the end. So feel free to put your questions in the chat if you have any at any point throughout the presentation, and Shumona will be our question asker. Thank you, Andrew, for that overview. That was really, really solid. It reminded me of how important strategic action is in this moment in time, and how we're in a very emergent moment. We don't know what's happening still. Every day, every hour, things change. And one of the things I think we do remarkably well at 350 Seattle is deal with emergence, and we're a very adaptive organization. So in that vein, if you can go to the next slide, Shumona, we have set up a Defend Democracy team within 350 Seattle, and I'm going to put a link in the chat to this web form here. This form is a place where you can sign up to volunteer and to note where you're able to help defend democracy. If we need to take any of the actions that Andrew has talked about, as we're plugging into and supporting the sustained mobilizations, it's in here. Fill out the form. There's also opportunities for people who, I see the question in the chat, and I'll speak to this really quickly. There are opportunities for folks who don't feel comfortable going out into the streets. So there'll be opportunities to make phone calls, to put pressure, as we say, sort of above ground pressure on these corporate targets or whomever may make sense. And we'll continue through all of our communications to amplify ways for folks to get involved, not only by going out into the streets, but from home as well, because we know a lot of people are not in a position to go out right now, and we want to give ample opportunities to engage from home as well. There's a signal just to lift up a couple other things that are likely to be happening. One is we're working on a training. Our Pledge of Resistance team is working on a short form, like 1 hour long, hit the streets, get ready to hit the streets training. So if we do move into a period of longer term sustained mobilization, or the mobilizations are picking up, and or there's a lot more people turning out, we're going to be offering training so you can learn how to be prepared and be healthy and safe as possible before you go out. We also have a Signal thread, which Signal is a text messaging app to connect with people who are going out and connect with the 350 Seattle community. So you'll be able to sign up for that in the web form that is linked here. So I want to pass it off the next part of this meeting and the last part before Q&A to Jess Wallach. Jess is one of our staff collective members and is working on the Seattle for a Green New Deal campaign. And as we're talking about election defense and defending democracy, we also didn't want to lose sight of the fact that we have active campaigns going on right now that have some big moments coming up, big opportunities to advance and act on climate locally. And Seattle for a Green New Deal is a good example of that. So take it on, Jess.
Thanks, Val. Hey, everyone. As Val said, my name is Jess. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on 350 Seattle Staff Collective. And really appreciate the chance to be here with you all tonight. I've actually just come back from the action downtown. And yeah, I'm sitting with that in a powerful way. And this conversation as well, I think, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot that could change between now and tomorrow and Friday and next week. We are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst so that we're ready no matter what. And I think in all of that, you know, it's really clear that whether we have a Biden presidency or not, we have work to do, that white supremacy is rearing its head, and that is seen in this election. The climate crisis is not going away. Economic injustice is rampant. We certainly can push in this moment, push to birth something better than what we've had and celebrate that. But then, like, the work is still there, and the opportunity to come together in the ways that we are around this election and keep pushing, keep fighting for racial justice and climate justice is so important. So that's what I want to talk to you all about tonight. Our Seattle Green New Deal work this fall is explicitly in solidarity with the local movement for Black Lives Matter and a number of other advocates doing housing justice, racial justice, and economic justice work, because we understand that in this moment of overlapping crises, the only way we're going to get through is together. And that's really what Seattle's Green New Deal is all about. We're rooted in the value that everyone, no matter where they live or what they look like or what's in their wallet, deserves a healthy future. And so that's why we've joined up with, at this point now, over 160 other community groups in Seattle to demand a 2021 city budget that is anti-racist, pro-Black, and towards a healthy future for all. And the 2021 city budget is a really exciting place to be doing solidarity work, because this is the place where our city leaders come together and make decisions about who we're going to be. And therefore, it's a place that we, as the people of Seattle, really put pressure on city leaders and advocate for a vision of a city that we need, not just the one that we're told we're supposed to have. So, sorry, I apologize. I'm on my phone. I can't see slides and see your faces. I think we need to go to the next slide. I had been looking at your faces. All right, cool. Yes, let's actually hop to the next slide because I want to tell y'all a little bit about the Solidarity Budget. So the Solidarity Budget came together because a bunch of us in different movement spaces who've been fighting for like climate, housing, economic justice, racial justice, we got together a few months ago and we're like, hey, we all have something at stake in this budget, and we all have something at stake together. We are trying to divest from harm, divest from the things that hurt communities, and invest in the good, the things that our communities need to be well, to be safe, to be healthy, and to have a healthy future. And so out of that alignment, we came together around 6 demands for the 2021 city budget. They're listed on this slide, but I think it's worth reading through them. First one is that we want to divest from SPD by at least 50% and reinvest that money in BIPOC communities. We want to see that money reinvested through a process of participatory budgeting, not a top-down task force, but decisions made by the people most impacted. We want to make sure that this budget protects vital services, whether that's transportation, parks, libraries, things that people need in their communities to thrive. We want to see an expansion of dignified housing and homeless outreach, and making sure that homeless outreach is not something where people are treated as criminals, but rather as whole people. We want to see steps taken to implement Seattle's Green New Deal, including money to transition low-income homes to clean energy. And we want to decriminalize poverty and mental health struggles so that folks who are just trying to meet a basic need at the moment when a crime is committed are not kicked into the criminal justice system when they just needed food or housing or services. These 6 demands for the 2021 budget are things that we can do right now to start to move towards a more just and healthy future for all. We know that in Seattle, we've got work to do. We also know that we have a lot of resources in this city, and things like the Jumpstart tax that was passed this summer is one proactive way that we can begin to transition the incredible wealth that's in this city towards a more equitable future for all. The 2021 city budget builds on that. It's a chance for us to say, Seattle's got priorities. They're written down in this budget document. What are our priorities going to be, and who do we want to be? So we invite you in this moment of like incredible national uncertainty, in this moment of super real tension and big feelings, to recognize that like those national conversations about who are we trying to be as a country are connected to these local conversations about who are we trying to be as a city, and that the fights are interconnected. And that was something that came through really powerfully tonight at the action downtown. Black and Indigenous organizers led the action and talks about how every vote counts, and protect every person is all about Black Lives Matter, is all about a healthy future for all. And that's why we show up to that in our Green New Deal work. So I want to invite everyone here to join our campaign. The final vote for the city budget is November 23rd. So when I say join our campaign, I mean jump in while it's hot. We have just over 3 weeks to continue putting pressure on City Council to make sure that we divest from SPD by at least 50% and invest in the things that are going to make our communities healthy. We're going to do that by calling, emailing, putting pressure on council members. We have a team of amazing folks who are reaching out and building power via gathering endorsements to our community sign-on letter. We have folks who are doing art and storytelling. It's a really beautiful space to be in, and I would love to have y'all join us for this final push. And the way that you can join is by, I'll drop my email into the chat here, but you can just email me at jess@350seattle.org. Then I will hook you up with our volunteer onboarding team, a team of volunteers who are talking to other volunteers about how to get involved. We'll also add you to our Slack, which has about 75 folks in it right now. Is a really vibrant space held by 350 Seattle and Sunrise Seattle to specifically engage climate peeps in the fight for a solidarity budget. So you can email me at jess@350seattle.org, and I will happily get you set up and plugged in with one of our volunteer-led teams in this final push for a solidarity budget and building power that we need to win a healthy future in this budget and beyond. I think that's good for me, all. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Jess. I love you so. Doing such awesome work. I'm looking at the time, y'all, and I think we have time for about maybe a few questions. So if you could pop your questions into the chat, and I will read them out loud, and whoever your question is directed to will hopefully be able to answer it. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. if not, I would what's on the wrong slide?
There's a typo in my email on the slide. So just to be clear, it's jess@350seattle.org.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jess. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see folks. Oh, that's the wrong button. Don't be shy. Small or big question. Oh, actually, I wanted to, Cindy, do you feel like your question was answered? I know you were kind of like looking more specifically towards in the streets, but in small groups, but I don't know if you felt like your question was answered.
That was a kind of a follow-up question from a meeting Andrew ran a while back, with that whole kind of idea about there being more safety in not necessarily having big mass groups. Not that there shouldn't be, but if there are options for smaller, diffuse gatherings, some of us might feel safer doing that. So my question is that going to be part of the, the protect the results kind of thing?
I can just briefly say the only thing that's currently planned are the mass mobilizations over the next 3 days. So there haven't been conversations around more distributed actions, but it's definitely a possibility that's on the table, and some of the strategic direct action that might emerge moving forward may also be in that vein.
Sounds good.
And if folks know about other things that are happening, it looks like Corey said there might be a mobilization where everyone's called out to get out on the intersections in their neighborhoods at the same time. I think I had seen something around like folks on Aurora doing that, but I can't speak to that because I'm not involved in organizing it.
Cynthia asks, what's the best way for us to learn about emergency actions to get involved in? Oh, emergent, not emergency.
I can speak to that too. I think the best thing you can do is get on our list, and especially give us your phone number if you're open to texting, because we do text people as well as email at times. We will email everybody, and we do text smaller groups of folks. And if you sign up on that form and note that you would like to be added to the Signal thread, that's the group text messaging thread, you'll definitely hear about emergent actions in that space.
Well, I think if there isn't another question, I would love to have Hillary close us out with a song and kind of just like set us up for the evening of another long haul of trying not to stare at our phone too long, but, still wanting to be informed. So, Hillary, I would love to. Oh, there you are. Okay. Hi, Hillary.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Song is important right now. My name is Hillary. I am with the People's Echo, which is a song collective based here in Seattle, and we are seeking to infuse music in these ongoing movements that we've been talking about tonight for social and climate justice. And I'll drop a link in the chat here where you can learn more. And included on that page would be like a link to our Facebook where you can follow us, as well as a link to our SoundCloud where you can hear all of our songs. But we're gonna sing a song called Now That I Know tonight, which has been brought by the People's Echo. And I'm gonna teach it through once, and then I believe Shimona has a recording ready to go, so we can all just kind of sing along with it and you can hear how it sounds. So I will say a line and you all can just kind of repeat it, and then I'll say the next line and so on. And I'll also drop the lyrics in the chat. Doing that now. Okay, so it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I know what I know, to what will I dedicate my life? Now you all. Great, and so it repeats that twice. So that's just 2 times through. You'll hear that on the recording. And then there's a second part that you might hear kind of overlapping in there as well. And that part goes, there is no unknowing, there is no unseeing. You want to try that? All right, great. I think we're ready for the recording. It'll go through a couple times and you can just kind of close your eyes and sing along with us, and feel free to listen to some other tracks there on our SoundCloud. Thank you.
Now that I know what I know, to what will I dedicate my life? Now that I know what I know, to what will I dedicate my life? There is no unknowing, there is no unseeing, there is no unknowing, there is no unseeing. Now that I know what I know, now that I know, dedicate my life. Now that I know what I know, now that I know, dedicate my life. That I know what I know, what will I dedicate my life? There is no doubt. That I know what I know, there is no what will I dedicate my life? There is no that I know what I know, there is no what will I dedicate my life? There is no doubt. That I know what I know, there is no what will I dedicate my life?
Thank you all for being here. I will see you all somewhere in the internets and the interwebs, maybe in the streets, who knows? But please take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, get rest. You know, it's okay if you eat cake for dinner. That's all right. I bid you all good night.